Welcome to the Journey Coach. I'm Dr. Tami Moser. And at the Journey Coach, we are a group of professionals that are very passionate about helping others achieve their dreams of completing a doctorate program. Often that journey is very difficult. And at the Journey Coach, we help you not only strive to reach those goals, but to thrive as you do so. So today we're going to talk about the 7 steps to successful academic writing. All right, let's get right into it and talk about the 7 steps to successful academic writing. I mean, there's a lot of things I could cover here and focus on for academic writing, but there's some things that if you'll address them early and start to work toward building this skill, it will help you as you reach your dissertation, right? And that's what we want to do, is build the skills necessary that when we get to the dissertation phase, with a little help, coaching, and guidance, we can get through that as quickly as possible and achieve our end goal. And that is something you can do, but it starts with this just very basic skill. And I say basic a bit tongue-in-cheek because it is something that's difficult to do. And the first thing you have to do is shift the way in which you write. So most that go through a master's program, the master's programs are more technical in nature than academic, meaning that many don't write a research project or thesis at the end of their program. If you had to write a thesis, then that means that it was an academic master's, in that you had to do research, prove that skill, and write in that way. So if you went through an academic master's, it actually kind of gives you a leg up here because you've already made this shift, or should have, right? But many go through a technical, and an MBA is a great example of that. Typically, you do not do a thesis at the end of an MBA. You go through that process of really kind of hitting those skills that are necessary to practice at the higher level of management and business administration. That's what the degree is designed for across the country. So there's some things you have to shift in your writing. First, you're moving from proving something. It's the proving versus instructing, right? So generally speaking, in master's programs, when you write papers, you often are instructing how to do something or building that. Whereas in academic writing, you're using research to prove a point, right? You're building a foundation toward making your point using the research to do so. And that is a writing principle that you start to follow all the way through, right? You're not instructing me on how to do something. You're using research to prove a point and move me in a direction. You also have knowledge versus solution. So many times in technical writing, you're providing a solution to something. This is definitely what you should do. And here, it's more about knowledge, building knowledge, understanding it, expanding it, and even creating it, right? So when we get to the dissertation phase, you're actually creating new knowledge. That's part of what that research project is for. And that's what a dissertation is. It's a research project. Regardless of the scale or scope of the particular end dissertation or research you do, you're understanding what exists, you're expanding on that, and you're creating new knowledge. And through your program, you're really focusing on understanding and expanding. You often don't create new knowledge through that process, but you can help me understand it in a different way or provide a new perspective on it. And so that expands how we look at the knowledge that exists. And then you're looking at argument versus behavior. You're not telling me how to behave, how to shift that behavior, which in technical writing you tend to do. Instead, you're arguing a point, but you're using evidence to support a rational argument. And so as you start to work through this shift from more technical writing in a master's program to more academic writing, then you're starting to make these shifts in the way in which you're looking at what you're doing. And that brings us to the next one, which is also very difficult, because in master's degree writing, you're actually putting your opinion in there a great deal, right? That's part of what we're doing, is building a skill set that allows us to tell others what to do, how to shift behavior. Here's a solution. when you get into academic writing, your opinion doesn't matter. And you've probably heard this from professors before, right? Your opinion does not matter. It's about an objective perspective or approach to what you're looking at or the assignment that you're doing. Now, the one time this does not hold true, and I'm going to throw this out there, is if you are doing a reflection type assignment. And you do have that in doctoral programs, especially in those that are trying to build scholar practitioner perspectives on what you do. And so you may be asked to actually step back, reflect, provide a reflection in that assignment, and what you, based on what you've written about in an objective way, would then use that and apply it to a particular kind of problem. And that might ask for your opinion or a more subjective view of what's happening. But if you're not asked to do that, then your opinion doesn't matter. And you need to keep it out of it and keep it very objective in what you're doing. And so you start with those two things as a foundation. And it is a difficult shift, especially your opinion doesn't matter until you write chapter 5 of your dissertation. That is something you have to continually work to pull yourself out of and provide an objective viewpoint. And as you build the skill as a researcher, that is what you're supposed to do. And we can get into hypotheses and those kinds of things later, but this is where it starts for academic writing. The third is to outline your paper. Now, I don't like this one. I'll just be honest with you. I've never enjoyed outlining a paper. I tend to want to wing it and freeform it. But that's not a best practice, right? And some of you may be shaking your head. Yeah, that's me. I don't like to outline. Outlining is rather painful. But it's painful for a reason. It actually forces you to start putting your ideas into a structured format, which can guide your writing. Now, if you're in a program where the basic outline is provided for you, that's great, because they provided you with some headings to start and given you clear instruction about the sections you're supposed to write, and maybe even not only primary headings, but secondary headings. That gives you a leg up in structuring that. But that doesn't mean that's the only outline you have to put in place there. It means they've given you a starting point, so you're not just kind of floundering. And this happens in your dissertation too, right? Chapter 1 is very structured. We have a structure and outline that your university will provide for you in a template. Even so much so that in our accelerator and the dissertation project management system, we're able to actually put those particular sections of chapter 1 as actually line them out as tasks, because they're so standardized. Same thing with results, generally speaking. So, and chapter 3, right, methodology. But that doesn't mean you don't add some of your own structure to it. So you may go from having no structure in a class to having some structure to work with all the way through the dissertation. But you need to learn how to fill in the blanks, structure something that allows you to approach your writing more specifically. And that's what an outline does. It also makes you think through how and what you want to write about. And that's really crucial, that thinking component is. So as painful as it is, as much as I don't like doing it, if you'll get into the habit, you really do get farther faster in your writing. And that also helps you with the next one, which is shifting to a more formal and structured approach to your writing, right? The language is very formal in academic writing. There is no slang. There is no contractions, right? You have to learn how to write in a much more formal manner. And by doing that and making that shift, you start to build what you need to really hit these next two. So the next is very concise language. So we're talking about formal language, getting rid of contractions, no first person, third person is your friend. There's only one place, especially if you're using APA and social sciences, there's only one place where first person is allowed. And that's when you've done your research and it's about how you're talking about your results. And that's in the APA manual. Other than that, you stay in third person. That's the rule, right? And that helps you with the formal nature of the writing. But you also have to be very concise, succinct in what you do. And this is about deliberately choosing words that clarify meaning, and you have careful construction of sentences. You eliminate unnecessary words. And there is a section, and I'm looking at this on my notes real quick, so sorry for glancing down, but I want to get the sections right. APA has a section called conciseness and clarity, and it's 4.4 through 4.11. And this helps you with some general guidelines on actually being concise in your language choice. This is challenging, right? Now, there are some tools you can use, and I highly recommend them. I have all three. I keep a license to all three, and I use them in slightly different ways. So I'm going to start with the one that's the least helpful overall in academic and formal writing of this kind. It doesn't mean it's not useful. I use it a lot for email and to make sure that I keep my language as clear as possible. And that's Grammarly. But it's the pro version. The free version is not as helpful. I wouldn't say, though, that Grammarly is the best thing for academic writing in terms of really gaining clarity and handling both the concise language and the next, right? Number 6 is precise language, being very exact. And these programs help with both of that. So the next one I would recommend is Pro Writing Aid. Now, we have links to these below. I think a few of them are affiliate links, but it doesn't cost you any more to use them, and it helps support us. So use them or not, but they're there. And Pro Writing Aid is a little more useful. In fact, a lot more useful, let me just say it, because you can actually dial up or down and choose what you're writing on. So for some of you, it can be helpful in many different ways, right? Professional writing, creative writing, any other kind of writing you do. But Pro Writing Aid also has an academic setting. It gives you information on sentence clarity. I mean, it can run so many reports and help in so many ways. That Pro Writing Aid is something I highly recommend. I recommend it over Grammarly for academic writing. Now, the next is one that I really like using, and it is even more helpful than Pro Writing Aid or Grammarly. And here's why. It's especially more useful than Grammarly. It actually was designed specifically for academic and technical writers. So whereas the other two have a lot of other kind of writing, you can kind of set it at different levels to get different, like the creative writing in Pro Writing Aid. Writeful is only really for students and researchers. It bases its language suggestions for you on journal articles and dissertations and academic writing that's out there, not blogs or creative writing, novels, anything of that nature. So Writeful really does help you narrow things and make suggestions based on academic standards. That makes it unique in comparison to the other two. Now, why I say I use all three of them, Grammarly is really what's attached to my email and things like that. If it's a more, I hate to say informal writing, but if it is writing that I do maybe in my professional setting, I'll use Grammarly, and it's the pro version, and it's perfectly acceptable for that. But I will run things through Pro Writing Aid on the academic setting. And I do use Writeful then to help suggest language and ways in which to structure my writing. Now, here's the goal of these. It's not to replace you writing your content. That's not what they're for, but it's to help you start to build the skill for concise language and precise language where things are exact. So use of precise nouns, right? Or simple, vivid verbs. I'm starting to really get more exact in how I'm framing and talking about things. And there is a rule for this too. So if you look at APA, it's called Grammar and Usage 4.12 through 4.24. And this is where it really starts to talk about how you build that precise approach and language to things to make sure that as you're looking at your writing, you're making the changes necessary to be clear. So as an example, I may choose youth as my noun, right? But do I mean juvenile? Do I mean teenager? Do I mean child? Do I mean adolescent? The more precise choice would be one of those others versus a youth, right? The next would be things like group. I use group as my noun. Well, do I mean horde, clan, team, committee? I mean, what kind of group am I talking about? So the more precise I make that, the better I am at communicating and writing what we need to talk about, right? The next is the vivid verbs. So instead of someone got better, they improved. Instead of someone was put in their place, we arrange, we place. I'm starting to get, again, more precise in my language. And both when I look at Writeful, Pro Writing Aid, Grammarly, part of what they're doing is helping me get concise in my language, very succinct, right? I have, Grammarly does this all the time when I'm writing something in email. It'll take 6 words I've written and suggest 2 to replace it. I'm like, oh, because I'm wordy. When I write, I'm wordy. And, for me, it's a constant struggle to be more concise. Now, I don't have as much problems with precise language, being exact in what I'm saying. But one of the things Writeful, Pro Writing Aid, Grammarly do for you is as they point out mistakes in your writing related to grammar, structure, both sentence and paragraph, and start to look at my ability to be precise and concise in my language, I learn from my mistakes. As they point them out or make suggestions, it may take a few times, but then I correct it myself. I do better with my word choice. I get more concise and precise in my writing. And so that's why, like I said, it doesn't take the place of you doing the work in the writing, but it starts to help you learn how to do better in those areas. And let's be truthful. We're not, writing, Octavia E. Butler said, you don't start out writing good stuff. You start out writing crap and thinking it's good stuff. And then you gradually get better at it. And that sums up, I think, the writing experience for probably 99% of those of us who write. It's a skill you get better at as you do it, right? And, I have a different one written down for 7, which I'm going to cover, but I'm going to throw in an extra here. You write. You write and you write and you write. Writing is a habit. And as you do it, you get better at it. If you're writing once a week, that's not enough. You need to really be writing every day, even if it's a paragraph. Right? So I may have some days where they're very busy and I'm not going to be able to write much. But if I put 15 minutes, 30 minutes aside, write a paragraph to a page, even if it's crap, I've got something to work with and I've got it on paper. And as I do that week after week, I build this skill. So many look at the discussion questions that they answer in classes, the papers they write as something they just have to get through. And there's some real problems with that, right? But they also provide me the opportunity to practice my writing because I really have something I need to be writing constantly to keep up with the due dates. So make it a habit, get into that habit, and that helps you gain writing skills. Right now, here's my, I'm going to throw on to this. It was really my 7th, but the writing as a habit, I threw in as my 7th. So my 8 is Cite as you write software. I don't know how many people I run into that have problems with having citations with no references that don't have any citations. And part of this is because they're manually trying to keep up with it. And I'm just like, why? Why do you do that to yourself? There's right. Everything from free Mendeley to more complex knowledge management systems like Citavi, which I've mentioned before. We'll provide a link for it, but it's my favorite out of all of them because it gives you such a wide range of functionality. So as you look at these are what start you out to really build successful academic writing skills. There's some mental shifts you have to make. There are some some skill you gain as you get the issues pointed out to you, and as you start to build this skill over time, right? Writing as a habit becomes necessary to fix some of these issues. And if you'll do this as you're going through your coursework and build this skill, then as you get to your dissertation phase, you've already learned how to be more concise and precise in your language. You've started to learn how to make that real shift away from technical writing, and then make sure that it's more formal and structured. And you have the good habits of writing and outlining to really support your ability to function and write when you get to the dissertation, because the dissertation requires a different level of complexity and critical thinking. And you really don't want your writing to get in the way at that stage, right? You want to be a successful academic writer. And while you won't be perfect, no one is, you'll be in a better place for working on that much more complex project. So this has been, I hope, very helpful for you. And as always, if the video is helpful, please hit like. That helps us with YouTube. You can subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the JC Dispatch if you want to get information. We send that out once a month to let people know what kind of videos are coming out, if we have any webinars that are going to be live, if we have any podcasts that are coming up that are outside of these. We also have our YouTube videos that are available just as a podcast, so you can listen to them instead of watch them if that's more helpful. So the JC Dispatch lets you know what's coming out. We also have the link below to subscribe to the podcast if you want to. And I hope and wish you the absolute best on your journey through your doctoral program and your dissertation. Thank you.